Well, comes the weekend, comes the movies, comes Michael Snyder. I don't mean that in a salacious way. Hello, Michael.
Oh, hello, Alex, and ooh, I feel good. It's January, and things are still not up to speed in terms of a lot of new movies, and a few things are trickling out from December still.
Okay, well, then we'll see you next week.
Hey, bye-bye, everybody. No, there are a few films that were released, but we're starting to grapple with, do I really want to see this movie? Or, let's just start with the idea that I'm excited to catch the cartoonish XXX series, Return of Xander Cage. I'm ready. I'm revving. That lovable bullet-headed lug Vin Diesel is back as the indestructible agent Xander Cage in the third XXX action espionage movie, but the studio wouldn't let me see it. Only online critics, they told me. And I said, well, wait a minute. We're streaming online. Oh, admittedly, it's audio, but what are they scared of? They're certainly not as brave as Dominic Toretto himself. No, wait a minute. That's Vin Diesel's character in the Fast and Furious movies. I meant they're not as brave as Richard Riddick. That's his character from the Chronicles of Riddick movies. As brave as Groot. Well, no, I meant Xander Cage. I think they're actually all the same character. I've never seen Vin Diesel play anything but whatever this character is, but it doesn't matter since I didn't get to see it. So, XXX Return of Xander Cage, you're on your own. I got a feeling it's more of the same. Lots of action, lots of boneheaded hysteria. Okay, how about a really good film? A film that is among the better films I've seen in the past few months, and they finally have brought it to the screen. They did a brief run in Los Angeles and one in New York for Oscar contention, but now they've opened it up officially. It's The Founder. It's a biopic that tells the story of McDonald's founder and fast food mogul, and founder is a stretch here, by the way, Ray Kroc, an anti-hero at best and an exploitive bastard at worst. Super entrepreneur Ray Kroc, the man who built the McDonald's fast food empire, is the subject of this sharp and unflinching movie, which provides another great opportunity for Michael Keaton to create a compelling and multi-dimensional performance. I mean, he is great in this film. And the movie also stars Linda Cardellini, Nick Offerman, Patrick Wilson, and Laura Dern, among others. Laura Dern playing Kroc's first wife, Linda Cardellini playing Joan Kroc, who later ends up being the queen of his empire. And it's a fascinating story. This guy is an unlikable protagonist, but he's so brilliantly played by Keaton that you kind of buy in. And what happens is, as he exploits the McDonald brothers from Southern California, who actually are responsible for the very first McDonald's and the concept and the recipes, it's a tragedy. I mean, it's a tragedy for the McDonald brothers. Kroc is as conflicting an anti-hero as you can imagine, and it's odd to see him succeed and not root for him, so you kind of get caught up. Is it a cautionary tale about the evils of capitalism or how money corrupts? Well, sure. It's also an incredibly engrossing drama about one man's mania and his lack of compassion for so many who stand in his way. Wait a minute. It's Inauguration Day while we're recording this. Does this story sound familiar? Anyway, John Lee Hancock directed it. He's the guy who did the rather puerile, by comparison, Saving Mr. Banks. I just think it's amazing. This salesman from Illinois meets these guys running a burger operation in 1950, in the 1950s, and he's so taken up by it that he decides to kind of basically acquire it in his way. The writer, Robert Siegel, did The Wrestler. And, that intellect is on display here in a very good script. I thought that The Founder was really fascinating. And again, it's sad and tragic to see what happens to the McDonald brothers. I'm not telling tales out of school. This stuff is the matter of public record. The Founder is a wonderful film. Split is the latest movie from filmmaker M. Night Shyamalan. And it's, it was sure to be tense. I mean, this is about a multi-personality psycho who kidnaps 3 girls. The Nutter is played by James McAvoy, and there's a reason he's getting great buzz for the role. He may never reach, it's a split personality situation, and we're talking about a guy with 23 personalities. McAvoy had to be on his game. You know, Shyamalan may never reach the heights of his first two movies, The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, but he's done some quality work on the first season of the TV miniseries Wayward Pines. The second season, not so much. He produced it and at least directed the pilot. And I really like the low-budget family horror of The Visit. And now this pretty much impressed me. There were shades of Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates in the original Psycho, although McAvoy does have to display a broader range of characterizations with 23 personalities. And in Psycho, you get one split personality and a series of victims and one special lady. And here, you get, 23 and three, count them, three nubile teenage girls that are kidnapped. And on the other hand, this is a postmodern horror slasher film, and there's the other little matter of Psycho being written by the great Robert Bloch and directed by a guy named Hitchcock. And though Shyamalan does good work here, he ain't Hitch or even Hitchcock disciple Brian De Palma. All that said, I thought that Split was pretty solid stuff, and when you compare it to some of the horror films we see and some of the movies about murderous psychotics, it stands head and shoulders above it. Great supporting work from Betty Buckley as our protagonists or antagonists, Doctor, and the girls, Haley Lou Richardson, Jessica Sula, and the great Anya Taylor-Joy. They're all solid. They all do the job. Anya Taylor-Joy, by the way, was the compelling lead character in The Witch, and she's very, very different here in Split. So, yeah, you get a recommendation from me. Two movies I could recommend unequivocally. Obviously, The Founder, the better of the two films. But, yeah, I dug this. All right, here's a little kind of sort of indie, cartoony, animated suggestion that's actually winning awards and was very, very moving, but it's so small in its desires and so big in its subtext. It's called The Red Turtle, La Tortue Rouge in the original French, and it's sort of a Franco-Belgian-Japanese melange. It's been distributed by Studio Ghibli out of Japan, but it is the work of a French-Belgian guy named Michael Dudok de Witt, and it's basically a remarkable dialogueless feature film. It doesn't matter where it was made because there's no dialogue, and it's about a castaway and his life on a desert island where all he has in the way of companions are the flora and fauna, including a turtle that washes up on shore and ends up becoming something quite more. The guy ends up having a full relationship as this turtle takes on human characteristics, and he has a female companion after a time. So we see his life as it proceeds on this island, and it sounds kind of, maybe is it dull? No, it's not dull. It's beautiful, and as simple as it is completely engaging and lovely and romantic, and I was blown away by it. The Red Turtle is not going to be like a Pixar film when you see it. It's not going to be like a Disney movie. It's something completely different and fascinating, and it's sort of elegiac nature reminds me of some of Miyazaki's work, the legend behind Studio Ghibli, but it's again very different, and it's not specifically a work from that studio. Trespass Against Us was rough and dark, kind of a slice of British life, and a mini family crime saga that benefits from a very fresh setting, the travelers' culture of the UK and Ireland. Think gypsies. And there's a great cast here. But it's nigh impossible to understand what a lot of the actors are saying with the thick, regional, working-class accents. Still, you have Michael Fassbender as Chad Cutler, the handsome, daring, uneducated muscle of a traveler's enclave in the British countryside, and Brendan Gleeson as Colby, Chad's thuggish, controlling father, trying to keep the gang going while his son and daughter-in-law want out for the safety and well-being of their two kids, especially their young son, who actually seems all too ready to follow in Granddad's vile footsteps. It's interesting to note that Fassbender and Gleason play father and son in a much inferior film, Assassin's Creed. And then again, Brendan Gleeson is barely on screen in that piece of dung. This is a better movie, a more interesting movie, a more kind of dramatic and compelling film. In any event, there is a series of capers, you get car chases, there's religious symbolism, for what that's worth, and the great Rory Kinnear, who plays the Frankenstein character in the TV series, the dark kind of gothic TV series Penny Dreadful, and in here, he is a local cop with a grudge who's on a mission to stop the Cutlers and their crew. And also Sean Harris, one of Richard Harris's fantastically talented actor sons, as the simple-minded Gordon, who's part of this gypsy group and basically trouble afoot. This is not a great film, mind you, but powerful in its way when you can understand a word they're saying. And that is an issue for American viewers and people who don't have maybe subtitles. Maybe subtitles would have been a good idea for Trespass Against Us. So if you stream it at home, maybe you can add a subtitles component. I thought it was, it was fun, and it had its moments. And again, terrific cast, and so kudos to those involved in this. And also, I guess the general nature of a movie like this is, if you like crime films, you're going to probably buy in. Let's wrap this baby up. Again, this is not, one of those all-star weeks, but there have been things we could recommend, and I can recommend My Father Die, which is a Southern Gothic revenge tale from the director and writer Sean Brosnan, who in fact is the son of Pierce Brosnan, but don't let that affect any judgment here. This is a pretty cool film, and it's very much in the tradition of, I guess, what we call grindcore movies, and again, Southern Gothic. It's set in the South amidst the mangroves, and it's all about a guy named Asher, well played by the UK actor Joe Anderson. He's really, really fantastic in this. And when he's a kid, he is hit so hard by his vile father, Ivan, that he's been rendered deaf and mute, and that's from the age of 12 on. And now he's been waiting for for many years, 20 years, to wreak revenge on Dad, who also killed Asher's older brother. And the father gets out of prison, and there'll be hell to pay. That's all I can tell you. And I got to say, again, kudos to Joe Anderson, who is terrific as Asher, and Gary Stretch as Ivan, the dad. There's even a small role for John Snyder as the detective who wants to keep an eye on Ivan and make sure that Asher doesn't get in deeper trouble than he's headed for. I thought My Father Die was a kick-ass film, and again, really well shot, done on a shoestring probably. Big thumbs up to Sean Brosnan. I really look forward to see what he comes up with next. This is dark and kind of, totally a fascinating story. I say yes to My Father Die. What do you got, buddy? Have you been watching any TV out there?
Well, I watched a movie this week that a guy I interviewed produced and directed, and it's about Mayor Vishner, who was a radical back in the 70s, basically 60s and 70s, and he it's all about him desiring to commit suicide as an older man and a recluse and a hoarder. And guess what? At the end of the movie, he commits suicide. And it's
thanks a million.
Wait a minute.
Thanks a million.
No, well, we all know that if you read the newspapers,
I know. Just kidding.
But it's more the tale of this director coming into this guy's life and then having this life kind of consume the director. It's a very compelling piece of work, and it's called Left on Purpose. Comes from a thing he wrote just before he died, which said, "I was born, blah, 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 forced into this world, blah, 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 on such and such a date, and left on purpose."
Wow!
And
wow!
I found it to be. I knew a lot of the people involved in it. I mean, it's all about Abbie Hoffman and all the radicals back in that time. but I found it compelling, and I found it depressing. But it was moving, and I suggest everybody watch it. It's going to open up here in New York next week, and it will then be on Amazon and a few other pay outlets. And I suggest people watch it. It's a great film. Also,
that sounds great.
Yeah. Also, so far as television is concerned, and I don't know, do we consider Netflix television?
Yeah, absolutely. But then at the same time, this movie you just mentioned,
but television is the delivery system.
Right. Okay.
I don't know that we can say necessarily that a lot of the things on Netflix are television shows. They're really long form movies.
Well, I truly believe that in all ways, The Night Manager, which was actually on a UK outlet and also here in America on, I believe, AMC, I believe that's a 6-hour film. I don't think of it as a miniseries.
It plays better if you watch it on, I believe, who's carrying it now? I think Netflix is carrying it. If you watch the version without commercials, it just plays better.
Well, it's a long feature film.
It also plays like it played in the UK, which was without commercial breaks. And yes, The Night Manager is excellent. And but anyway, let me just say that, bring up Netflix, that the film thing that I've been watching and that we've just fallen in love with is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Outrageous Events. This is just a beautiful piece of work, and I know there was the movie, and
better than the Jim Carrey film.
Oh, by a mile, by a mile. It's directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. 4 of the episodes are, and it's produced by him, and it's written most of the episodes by Daniel Handler, who is Lemony Snicket. And it is. I'm telling you, it's. If you don't see any other Netflix show this year, see that one.
Well, the character, the main character in this thing, is played by Neil Patrick Harris, taking over from the Jim Carrey performance, I guess. But I guess he's made it his own, huh?
He's amazing. He is absolutely amazing. He's transparent. You can't see Neil Patrick Harris in the performance.
I love to hear that. 2 more quick notes.
I mean, Carrey's was too over the top. This one is just right down the trench.
I do want to mention, I don't want people to forget the 20th Century Women of a tour de force for Annette Bening, which we've already reviewed on this little enterprise of ours when it came out in late December, is finally getting wide release. It is a great film. I'm actually surprised now, in retrospect. There have been a lot of solid films today. And one more quick note, Staying Vertical, a dark French film, and Messed Up Tale is also coming out in various markets today. Yeah. Reminded me of the downbeat Agnes Varda film, Portrait of an Artist as an Itinerant Vagabond and Crappy Father. And the guy actually plays the main guy who's on the run in
well, our rule should be that once you're finished doing the movie reviews, you're finished doing the movie reviews.
That's nice. No, wait, this guy looks like Kramer on Seinfeld. It was hard for me to follow the movie when I was. Oh, wait, please don't say anything ugly. Anyway, okay, we'll try to move on here. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster or on Facebook at the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page, and we'll be back next week.
Okay, and there'll be more GABNet coming right up.